Elder Vox stood by the viewing port of the command ship, his scaled fingers clasped behind his back. The blue-green planet grew larger on the screen before him. So many worlds had fallen to the mithril, and this one would be no different. "Is the poison ready?" he asked, not turning to face the crew. "Yes, Elder," said Kel, the chief researcher. "The formula is perfect. As always, the mithril had conquered 3 galaxies with their special weapon. Not their ships, though they were fast. Not their weapons, though they were powerful. It was the poison that made them unstoppable. A clear liquid that looked like water, had no smell, and killed within seconds. Nature had given them this gift, a toxin their bodies made naturally. Over thousands of years, they had made it stronger, better, deadlier. "Tell me about these humans," Vox said. Kel stepped forward, holding a datapad. "They are new to space travel. This is just a small mining colony with about 200 humans. They dig for metals in the moons of this system. They are soft-skinned, no scales, no natural armor. They have no claws or fangs. Their bodies are mostly water." "Weaklings," Vox said with a smile that showed his sharp teeth. "Perfect. The mithril always followed the same plan. They came in peace. They offered friendship. They shared a drink. And then, when the poison took effect, they took over. It had worked 100 times before." "Prepare the peace offering," Vox ordered. In the preparation room, 3 mithril workers carefully filled a beautiful crystal bottle with clear liquid. Half was water. Half was their deadly poison. They added a drop of color to make it slightly blue, the traditional color of peace across many worlds. The bottle was placed in an ornate box lined with soft fabric. "The humans have sent a message," a young mithril named Dren reported. "They welcome us and invite us to their main base. They are happy to meet us." Vox laughed. "They were always happy at first. Tell them we come in peace and friendship," he said. "Tell them we bring gifts from our world." The landing party consisted of 5 mithril, including Elder Vox and researcher Kel. They wore their formal robes, deep purple with silver designs showing the great battles of mithril history. Vox carried the box himself, as was tradition. The poison had never failed them. Their ship landed at the human colony's main port. Through the windows, they could see humans gathering, pointing at their ship with excitement. None carried weapons. None looked afraid. "Such easy prey," Vox whispered. The door opened, and the mithril walked down the ramp onto a new world. The air was thin but breathable. The gravity was lighter than their home world, making them feel strong and quick. A human stepped forward from the crowd. He wore a blue uniform with small metal pins on the chest. "I am Captain James of Mining Colony Delta," he said with a smile. "Welcome to our home." Vox stepped forward, towering over the human. His scales shimmered in the sunlight of this new world. "I am Elder Vox of the Mithril Dominion," he said, his translator making his hissing speech understandable to human ears. "We come in peace and friendship." He held out the ornate box. Captain James took it with both hands, showing respect. "In our tradition," Vox explained, "new friends share a drink to seal their bond." James smiled wider. "We have the same tradition." "How wonderful." Vox felt the familiar thrill of the hunt. These humans would fall like all the others. Their colony would become a mithril outpost, their resources taken, their survivors useful for labor or study. "We would be honored to share a drink," James said, not knowing he had just accepted death. The poison had never failed. It never would. Or so Elder Vox thought. Captain James led the mithril visitors into the colony's main hall. The room was bright and simple, with metal walls and a large round table in the center. Pictures of Earth and the mining colony's first days hung on the walls. About 20 humans stood around the edges of the room, watching the tall, scaled aliens with curious eyes. "Please, make yourselves comfortable," James said, pointing to chairs around the table. Elder Vox nodded, his yellow eyes never leaving the box that James carried. Inside was the poison that would end this colony. The mithril sat down, their long tails curling around the chair legs. "We have prepared a small welcome ceremony," James explained. He clapped his hands, and two humans brought out plates of food. "These are some treats from our home world." Vox looked at the colorful food with disgust, but nodded politely. "Very kind of you." "And now," James said, opening the ornate box the mithril had given him, "let's share this drink as new friends." Kel glanced at Vox. This was happening faster than expected. Usually there was more talk before the drinking. But it didn't matter. The result would be the same. James carefully removed the crystal bottle and admired it. Beautiful craftsmanship. A human woman brought small glasses and placed one in front of each person at the table. James poured the blue liquid, filling each glass halfway. "A toast," he said, raising his glass, "to new friendships and a future of cooperation between our peoples." The humans around the table raised their glasses. The mithril did the same, but their glasses remained full. They never drank their own poison. Vox watched intently as James brought the glass to his lips. Every mithril at the table leaned forward slightly. This was the moment they had seen on 100 worlds. The moment when smiles turned to confusion, then pain, then nothing. James took a long sip. Then he drank the entire glass. Vox's scales rippled with anticipation. 3 seconds. That's how long it took for the poison to reach the brain. 1, 2, 3. James smiled. "This is really good. It has an interesting flavor. Like mint and something else I can't quite place. Is this a popular drink where you come from?" Vox couldn't speak. His jaw had dropped open, showing his rows of sharp teeth. 4 seconds, 5 seconds. James was still standing, still smiling, still alive. He poured himself another glass. "Would anyone else like to try it?" James asked the other humans. Before Vox could stop them, 3 more humans took glasses. They all drank. They all smiled. One of them, an older man with gray hair, even asked for more. "This reminds me of a liquor my grandfather used to make," the man said. "It has that same little kick at the end." Kick. The poison didn't kick. It killed. Instantly. Always. Kel was the first mithril to recover from the shock. How do you find the taste?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Excellent," James said, "though I think it might pair better with food than on its own." "Do you have different varieties?" Vox couldn't believe what he was seeing. He had personally watched 50 species die from this poison. Some larger than humans, some smaller, some with thick hides, some with advanced immune systems. All had died. But these humans were drinking it like water. "Is something wrong?" James asked, noticing the mithril's silence. Vox forced himself to speak. "No, nothing is wrong. Please you enjoy our traditional drink. Now you must try some of ours," James said cheerfully. He motioned to a human who brought over a dark bottle. "This is whiskey, from my home region on Earth." The human poured a small amount of brown liquid into new glasses and passed them to the mithril. Vox stared at the drink, his mind racing. Their poison had failed. For the first time in mithril history, their poison had completely failed. And now these strange, soft-skinned creatures wanted them to drink something in return. What kind of beings were these humans? Back on their ship, the mithril gathered in the main meeting room. No one spoke for several minutes. The silence felt heavy, like the gravity of their home world. Finally, Elder Vox slammed his fist on the table. How is this possible? The poison has never failed before." Researcher Kel placed a small container on the table. Inside were several strands of human hair he had collected during the meeting. "I will find out," Kel promised. "Their bodies must have some special defense." "Work quickly," Vox ordered. "We cannot proceed with our plans until we understand this problem." In his laboratory, Kel worked through the night. He placed the human hair samples into testing machines. He compared human DNA to the records of all other species the mithril had encountered. He ran simulation after simulation of how the poison should affect human bodies. The results made no sense at first. "Computer, run the test again," Kell said for the 5th time. The screen showed the same result. The poison that killed every other known species was broken down by human liver enzymes into harmless compounds. Even more strangely, one of these compounds triggered pleasure centers in the human brain. "Impossible," Kell whispered. He expanded his research, accessing the human data networks they had secretly tapped into. He read about Earth, the human homeworld. What he found shocked him even more. Earth was full of toxins and poisons. Plants there produced deadly chemicals to defend themselves. Animals had venom. Even the air in some places was filled with dangerous substances. Humans had evolved strong systems to handle these poisons. But that wasn't all. Humans deliberately consumed things that should kill them. They drank alcohol, which damaged their brain cells. They ate plants containing capsaicin, which caused pain. They consumed caffeine, which messed with their sleep patterns. And they did all this for fun. Kell went to Elder Vox with his findings. "The humans are not like any species we have met before," Kell explained. "Their bodies can break down our poison. And worse, the chemicals it creates actually make them feel good." Vox's yellow eyes narrowed. "Are you saying our poison is like a treat to them?" "Yes, Elder. Similar to their coffee or alcohol. It gives them a pleasant feeling." Vox stood up and paced the room, his tail swishing with agitation. "This changes everything. Our whole strategy depends on the poison working." "There's more," Kell said. "I analyzed the whiskey they offered us. It contains ethanol, a poison to most species, including us. If we had drunk it, we would have become sick or died." Vox stopped pacing. "Are you saying they tried to poison us too?" "No, that's the strange part. They drink it themselves. Often. They enjoy it. They didn't know it would harm us." The elder Mithril sank back into his chair. "So they accidentally defended themselves against our poison, and then accidentally offered us poison in return. Without any bad intentions." "It appears so," Kell said. The 5 Mithril commanders sat in stunned silence. "What do we do now?" asked Dren, the youngest commander. "We need more information," Vox decided. "We need to understand these humans better before we decide our next step. Kell, prepare a stronger version of the poison. We must test the limits of their resistance." "And if that doesn't work?" Dren asked. Vox's face hardened. "Then we may need to consider alternative methods." But as he said it, Elder Vox felt something he had never felt before in all his years of conquering worlds. Doubt. The Mithril had always relied on their poison. Their ships were fast, but not the fastest. Their weapons were good, but not the best. Their strength had always been the poison that never failed. Until now. Until humans. 3 days later, the Mithril returned to the human colony. This time, they brought a special gift. "We have prepared a special drink from our homeworld," Elder Vox announced as they sat once again in the colony's main hall. "It is reserved for only our most honored friends." Captain James smiled broadly. "We are flattered. The last drink you shared was quite popular among our people." Vox tried to hide his surprise. "Popular?" "Oh yes," James said. "Several people have asked if we could get more. They said it gave them a pleasant, relaxed feeling without the hangover of alcohol." Kell glanced at Vox. The implications were troubling. Humans had not only survived their poison, but were asking for more. Vox nodded to Dren, who opened an ornate metal case. Inside was a bottle containing a deep blue liquid that seemed to glow slightly. "This is 5 times stronger than our regular ceremonial drink," Vox explained. "It is special." Special was one word for it. Deadly was another. This concentration would kill a Mithril in seconds. It must affect the humans somehow. James called over several other humans, including the older man from their first meeting. His name was Tom, and he was the colony's chief engineer. "Tom really enjoyed your first drink," James explained. He asked specially to be here for this tasting. The mithril poured small glasses of the concentrated poison. They watched closely as the humans raised their glasses in toast. "To our growing friendship," James said. The humans drank. Vox held his breath. Kel's tail twitched nervously. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The humans were still standing, still breathing, still alive. But something was different this time. The humans' faces flushed red. Their pupils grew wider. They smiled more broadly than before. "Wow," Tom exclaimed, slapping the table. "That's got a kick to it. Much stronger than the first batch." James laughed, a sound that seemed louder and more free than before. "You're right. I feel really good. Relaxed but also energetic." Another human, a woman named Anna, giggled. "It's like a perfect mix of coffee and wine. Energy, but also calm." Tom looked at the bottle with appreciation. "This reminds me of the moonshine my grandfather used to make back home. Strong stuff, but smooth going down." He turned to Vox. "Would it be possible to get the recipe? I'd love to try making this." The mithril stared in shock. Their super-concentrated poison had not killed the humans. Instead, it had made them happy. "The recipe is complex," Kel said quickly. Tom nodded with understanding. "Family secret, eh? I respect that. But if you're ever willing to trade, we pay good money for it." This could be popular throughout human space. Human space. The words hit Vox like a physical blow. There were more humans out there. Many more. And they all might be immune to the mithril's greatest weapon. "We will consider it," Vox said stiffly. As the meeting continued, the humans became more relaxed and talkative. They showed no signs of illness, no signs of weakness. The poison that had conquered galaxies only made them cheerful. Later, back on their ship, the mithril commanders gathered in silent shock. Even at 5 times normal strength, it did nothing harmful, Kel reported. Instead, it created a mild euphoric effect. The compound triggers dopamine and serotonin release in their brains. Vox stared out the viewport at the human colony below. For the first time in his long life, he felt something new. Fear. Researcher Kel could not sleep. For 3 nights, he stayed in his laboratory, studying everything he could find about humans. The more he learned, the more fascinated he became. Earth, the human homeworld, was unlike any planet the mithril had encountered. It had thousands of deadly plants, venomous creatures, and dangerous microbes. Humans had evolved there, surrounded by death, and had developed amazing ways to survive. But that wasn't what kept Kel awake at night. It was something else, something stranger. Humans sought out danger. They climbed tall mountains for fun. They jumped from high places with only thin fabric to slow their fall. They ate foods that burned their mouths on purpose. They drank bitter drinks that made their hearts race. And strangest of all, they had been poisoning themselves for thousands of years. Alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, spicy foods, all these things were mild poisons that humans consumed by choice. Kel compiled his research and called an emergency meeting with Elder Vox and the other commanders. "I have discovered why our poison fails against humans," Kel announced, displaying images on the main screen. "Their planet is a death world by our standards. They evolved surrounded by toxins similar to our own." The screen showed humans drinking coffee, eating spicy foods, and consuming alcohol. These substances would kill most species, Kel explained. But humans not only tolerate them, they enjoy them. They seek out chemicals that alter their minds and bodies. Dren leaned forward. "Are you saying they poison themselves? For fun?" "Exactly," Kel said. "Their bodies have advanced systems to break down toxins. Their livers are remarkable organs, and they have something called the blood-brain barrier that protects their thinking organs from many poisons." Elder Vox's scales had paled as he listened. "So our poison is just another enjoyable substance to them," Kel finished. "In fact, Our poison breaks down in their bodies into compounds similar to their caffeine and alcohol. That's why they feel good when they drink it." The room fell silent. For thousands of years, the Mithril had relied on their poison. It was more than a weapon. It was the center of their identity, their culture, their way of life. "There's more," Kell continued. "I accessed their communication networks. Humans have thousands of poisons of their own. They have weapons that make our poison look primitive." He showed images of human weapons, wars, and military technology. Their history is full of conflict. They fight constantly, with others, with nature, even with themselves, and they have grown stronger because of it. Vox stood up suddenly. "Send this information to the High Council immediately. We must warn the entire Mithril Dominion." "What will we do about this colony?" asked Commander Lith, who had been silent until now. "We cannot conquer them as planned," Vox admitted. "Not with our usual methods." "Perhaps we should destroy them from orbit," Lith suggested. "No poison needed." Kell shook his head. "That would be unwise. This is just one small colony. There are billions of humans in their home systems. If we attack, we would face their full military response. And based on my research," he added more quietly, "that is something even the Mithril Dominion might not survive." The commanders looked at each other. For the first time in their history, the Mithril had found a species they could not easily defeat. "There is another option," Kell said carefully, "one that might be beneficial to us." "What option?" Vox demanded. "Trade," Kell said simply. "They want our poison as a recreational drink. We could provide it to them, learn from them, perhaps even form an alliance." "Alliance? With prey?" Lith spat the words. Kell looked directly at Elder Vox. "With respect, Elder, I don't think the humans are prey. I think they might be predators like us. Just different." News spread quickly through the Mithril ship. Though the commanders tried to keep it secret, the crew soon learned that their poison had failed against the humans. Whispers turned to worried conversations turned to arguments. "If our poison doesn't work, what are we?" asked a young crew member in the eating hall. It was a question that echoed throughout the ship. For generations, the Mithril had defined themselves by their poison. It made them special, feared, powerful. Now that identity was in question. Elder Vox locked himself in his quarters for a full day. When he emerged, his scales were dull, and his eyes were tired. "The High Council has responded," he announced to his commanders. "They are concerned." "What are their orders?" Commander Lith asked. "They have not given any yet. They are sending 3 council members to see the humans for themselves." Vox's voice was flat. "Until then, we are to continue friendly relations with the colony." Lith slammed his tail against the floor. "Friendly relations with creatures who resist our poison. We should destroy this colony now, before more council members witness our failure." "No," Kell said sharply. "That would be disastrous. Humans have something we've never faced before." "What?" Lith demanded. "Unity in diversity," Kell explained. "Most species we've conquered were similar to each other. Humans are different from each other in appearance, beliefs, and abilities. Yet they work together. They adapt. They find strength in their differences." Dren, who had been quiet, spoke up. "I've been monitoring their communications. They've contacted their main government about us. They're excited to have met us." "Excited?" Vox asked. "Not afraid." "Not at all," Dren confirmed. "They see meeting us as a great achievement. They're sending more ships here with diplomats and scientists." Vox paced the room. "More humans coming here." He stopped suddenly. "Do they know about the poison?" Kell shook his head. "I don't think so. Their messages mention our delicious ceremonial drink, but nothing about poison." Outside the ship, the human colony continued its daily activities. The miners dug for precious metals. The engineers maintained the life support systems. The cooks prepared meals. And everywhere, people talked about the exciting aliens who had visited. In his small quarters, Tom, the older engineer, worked on a special project. He had taken a small sample of the blue drink the Mithril had shared and was trying to analyze its components, not to expose their secret, but because he genuinely liked the taste and feeling it gave him, almost like the best parts of whiskey and coffee combined. He muttered to himself as he worked. Back on the Mithril ship, the arguments continued. We could adapt, Kel suggested. Change our strategy. Learn from humans instead of conquering them. Change. Lith spat. We are Mithril. We conquer. We do not change. If we don't change, we die, Kel said quietly. That is the lesson of evolution. The humans understand this better than we do. Elder Vox stood at the viewing window, looking down at the colony. For thousands of years, the Mithril had believed they were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Their poison made them unbeatable. But now they had met humans, creatures who drank their poison, and asked for more. Creatures who had evolved on a planet so dangerous that the Mithril would consider it uninhabitable. Creatures who sought out danger for fun. We must decide who we are, Vox said finally. Are we only our poison, or are we more than that? No one had an answer. For the first time in their history, the Mithril faced a question more dangerous than any enemy. Who are we, if not the masters of poison? 3 days after the emergency message to the High Council, researcher Kel made a decision. Without telling Elder Vox or the other commanders, he sent a message to Captain James, requesting a private meeting. They met in a small room at the edge of the colony. Kel came alone, breaking all Mithril protocols about safety. Thank you for meeting me, Kel said, his tail twitching nervously. Of course, James replied with a smile. Though I'm curious why you wanted to meet without the others. Kel took a deep breath. I need to tell you something important. Something about our ceremonial drink. The blue one. It's wonderful stuff. Everyone loves it. It's not a ceremonial drink, Kel said quietly. It's poison. The deadliest poison in 3 galaxies. James stared at him, then laughed. That's a good joke. It's not a joke, Kel insisted. Our poison kills every species we've ever encountered. It's how we've conquered 57 worlds. We came here to conquer your colony too. James's smile faded as he realized Kel was serious. But it didn't work on us. No, your bodies process it differently. Instead of dying, you feel good. There was a long silence. Kel expected anger, fear, maybe even an attack. But James just looked thoughtful. So that's why all of you seemed so shocked when we drank it and asked for more, he said finally. Kel nodded. We've never failed before. We don't know what to do now. James leaned back in his chair. Then, surprisingly, he smiled again. You know, humans have a long history of turning poisons into medicines and recreational drinks. What do you mean? Many things we enjoy started as something dangerous, James explained. Coffee was once thought to be harmful. Some alcoholic drinks were discovered by accident. Many medicines come from plants that can kill in the wrong dose. He leaned forward. Instead of seeing this as a failure, maybe it's an opportunity. An opportunity. Your poison makes humans feel good without harmful side effects. If properly processed and regulated, it could be a valuable trade item. Kel blinked in surprise. You're not angry that we tried to kill you. James shrugged. Cultural misunderstandings happen. What matters is what we do next. Just then, the door opened. Elder Vox stood there, his scales dark with anger. Traitor, he hissed at Kel, revealing our secrets to the enemy. They're not our enemy, Kel said, standing tall. They could be our partners. Partners. Vox spat the word. We are conquerors, not merchants. James stood up calmly. Why not be both? Throughout human history, the greatest empires were built on trade as much as conquest. Vox stared at the human. You know we tried to kill you, yet you speak of partnership. I know enough about evolution to understand that successful species adapt, James said. Humans adapted to Earth's dangers. Now the Mithril face a choice: adapt or stagnate. The words hung in the air between them. 6 months later, the first shipment of blue mist, a diluted, properly tested version of the Mithril poison, arrived at Earth's main space station. It quickly became the most sought-after luxury drink in human space. The Mithril, once feared conquerors, found a new identity as master brewers and biochemists. Their knowledge of toxins, previously used only for war, now created medicines and recreational substances that benefited many species. Elder Vox, after much resistance, finally tried a human drink called bourbon. The experience of willingly altering his own consciousness, something no Mithril had ever done, changed him deeply. Strange, he told James as they watched their ships exchange cargo, that our greatest defeat led to our greatest prosperity. James smiled. That's the most human thing you've ever said. Their poison had failed, but in failing, it had opened a door to something neither species had imagined, a future built on mutual respect rather than conquest.